It does. There was intense fellowship, and look, I couldn't summarize it any better than what you just played that Jim Jordan shared, because it was exactly what he said. I mean, all of us, through the meetings that were held, there were numbers of meetings, negotiations that went on. It was intense, but at the end of the day, we did get over the finish line. There was a lot of prayer that went into this thing. I promise you, there were folks that were gathered throughout the whole day and night. I mean, from the time I got up Tuesday morning, very early to start that day, I didn't realize that I wouldn't get back into bed until last night on Thursday evening to be able to go to bed because of just the long day, the session that got stretched out. But we were able to finish the job, to deliver on the promises that we had made, and I'm very, very grateful.
So I'm curious if you've had any conversations with your fellow Congress members, your fellow Republican Congress members who voted no. That, of course, would be Thomas Massie of Kentucky, Warren Davidson of Ohio. We already knew that Thomas Massie was a no. He was pretty open about that. Have you had any conversations with them? Also, the members who missed the vote. I would think, and so that's why I'm asking you, that I would say, dude, what's going on? Now, of course, you probably would be a bit more diplomatic than I am, but any conversations had there at all?
Well, I've not talked to those that missed the vote, quite honestly, but I do understand the votes that were against, and then, of course, the vote present that came. And at the end of the day, a lot of us shared the concerns that we were not going far enough, that the deficit spending, we were not sent to Washington, D.C. to run up deficits. We were sent there to do government differently. And so when you looked at this bill as a whole, there are concerns, because particularly in the first 3 or 4 years, it actually shows deficits until we see all of these savings begin to kick in for the last 6 years. This was a 10-year deal. That's what you got to remember. This is a 10-year budget that we were putting together, a 10-year framework. And when you look at all of it and the things that are happening, it certainly ends up within that framework that we were saying we were going to do. The one variable that none of us know, and that is, are we going to be able to spur the growth that we need in this economy? Many of us believe that we will, by making the Trump tax cuts permanent, that's going to spur this economy in such a way, as we've seen it happen before, and that we will be able to overcome with revenue any of those deficits that are projected at this point. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we're not destroying this country with our national debt. This is a first step. That's what I've been trying to tell everybody all along. We had to get on the same page. We had to take the first step. We got it done by Memorial Day, like the Speaker was setting out to do. We're now sending it over to the Senate. Hopefully they're going to wrestle with it over to the month of June. They're going to get it back to us, and we're going to be able to get it done on the president's desk. And I can't think of a greater celebration on July 4th to kick off this 250th year than to be able to sign that bill into law.
Congressman, you mentioned a prayerful approach to this particular bill, and I think I know how you would feel about this pastorally in terms of the 2 Israeli diplomats that were shot and killed. Do you see a congressional response to the shooting of these 2 Israeli embassy staffers in D.C. outside of your own pastoral response that you individually probably have towards this?
Well, I think, again, you saw the response yesterday of the administration stepping up to deal with Harvard, as you talked about earlier. Listen, there is no room for this kind of pro-Hamas anti-Semitism that we are seeing in this country. It was a tragedy of gigantic proportion to see these 2 young people's lives just taken and snuffed out for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And there we were. We were actually heading to one of the meetings just prior to the votes and all the debate getting underway that night when we heard the sirens. I had actually been in a Jewish American congressional breakfast, a heritage breakfast earlier that day. And when we learned where all those sirens were going and what had happened, what a tragedy that we faced. But we cannot tolerate this anti-Semitism, and these universities have got to be called into account. They've got to be held accountable. And, you know, we were having hearings all the time on that very issue I was a part of just a couple of weeks ago there on the Committee on Education and Workforce. So I do think as we begin to let this sink in and look at how we can respond, we've got to condemn such actions. And how disappointing when I find out that I had a colleague on the other side that wouldn't even condemn this, but just walked away from a reporter that asked that they condemn this action.
Yeah.